And you're Kerry Keefer Fischer, officially.
Whatever you want to call me.
KKF?
Sure.
KKF. Oh, we're live? Okay. Hey, everybody. Paul, Greg, and Kerry Keefer Fischer is our special guest today.
Hi.
So we want to welcome you, Kerry. Thanks for being part of this. Greg did not want to play any games, but we're going to play games anyways.
Perfect.
So we are going to start with, are you an up north person or a down south kind of person? Where do you vacation?
I like to be warm.
Okay.
So if it's warm up north, I'll be up north.
Okay.
But if it's not warm up north, I like to be down south.
Okay. Do you get down south every winter?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Where do you go?
I would like to go more south of Florida because Florida's almost not warm enough for me.
Wow.
Yeah. You got to get below the tropic line there.
You do. Even the Bahamas isn't warm enough.
Yeah.
Wow. So where are you going then next?
Probably not the Dominican.
No. I mean, next I want to go to Italy.
Ah.
But that's kind of my next.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Southern Italy
Yeah.
is very
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Mhm.
Honey, if you're watching, we're going to Italy.
Italy, all right. Yeah. I spent a few days in Italy.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was there for a couple of weeks too, about 4 years ago.
Yeah, I've never been. That's
Yeah,
on my
it's
bucket
very-
list.
Very cool.
We were in a little island called Procida in college. I was traveling abroad, studying abroad, and you literally can just pick lemons off trees. Like they're just
Oh,
everywhere.
that's
Like it's weird that you can just grab it and like it's amazing, right? Because
Yeah.
we don't see lemons growing on trees here.
Right. We don't.
Okay. Are you
So
a
is that
up north
it?
travel person or a down
Oh,
south
geez.
travel person? Come on.
I'm south. I mean,
South.
I would be like Kerry, like I'll go up north this weekend because it's warm,
Right.
but during the winter I'm going to head south.
Okay.
And
I'm-
mostly Florida.
I'm a cool weather guy. We had our honeymoon in Nova Scotia in October. So it was chilly, but okay, favorite ice cream flavor?
Mint chocolate chip.
And probably cookie dough.
All right, thanks for
Wow.
being honest. I would say probably butter pecan.
Oh.
Yeah, kind of like a little salty kind of thing going on.
Reminds me of my
Um,
mom.
I do like fudge on my ice
Yeah.
cream too. So,
Yeah. Favorite cigar brand?
Perdomo.
Ugh. I can't give you that one.
I just threw a
I don't know.
curveball for him. That's really what that was.
All I
for,
think of
so.
caffeine is when I think of cigars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get started. So, Kerry, how long have you been with 5 Star?
2 years.
2
Almost
years.
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. And you were formerly at Berkshire.
Yep.
Okay. Run us through the past 2 years. What was your business like? Not really comparing at brokerages, but what's happened to your business in the past few years? I think when we first met you, you had like a small team.
Yep. Just
Okay.
started a team.
Take me from
so
there.
2016 had one person that was just kind of getting acclimated, coming on board, and made the switch to 5 Star, and it's been growing ever since. I think you guys definitely foster the environment for individual or team growth and whatever that looks like.
What does the team look like now?
So our team is made up of a transaction manager, and she's full-time. And then we have a listing coordinator who also does my staging, and she's part-time. And then I have a part-time client relations person that really does database, client parties, helping send out cards, things like that. So,
Okay.
Buyer's agents.
I don't have buyer's agents necessarily. I allow an agent to come in and work both sides, which I think helps give them great perspective. And with that, I have one agent that's now been with me for 2 years, and my husband, who's new on board this year, and then another agent that's new on board right now. So,
Cool.
What kind of fears did you have bringing him on?
bringing my husband on,
Yeah.
I didn't have any fears.
Okay.
Jim's
Yeah.
easy to get along with.
Yeah.
I hired my wife for a while, but she was starting to take over, so I had to fire her quickly.
Well, I actually
I don't see Jim wanting to take over.
So Lindsay and I we worked together just briefly. She was doing admin work for me in real estate back when I was just selling. I would say, hey, can you set up those showings? She would like, why don't you do it? And I was like, whoa, okay, all right, this isn't gonna work. And so I think we lasted 3 months.
Yeah, no, Jim has been great at working with my clients. If I need help doing backup, he'll run show houses for me. But the last couple weeks, he's been getting kind of busy, and he's actually said, well, I have my own things to do. And I'm like, what? No! You're supposed to be helping me too. So
Yeah.
So I want to go back though a little bit further in history because I think there's some interesting aspects. So when I met you, the first time you told me that you had to wait because you had a daughter in high school and you didn't want to do anything until she graduated.
You mean make a switch to a new company?
It was over. And I was like, what? Well, how long is that going to take? She was like in 11th grade or something, so we had to wait a year.
yeah.
And but you were a single mom and
Yeah.
raised, I don't know how many years you were single in that, but during that period, while you were raising your daughter, you also were somehow out buying properties with another person, I believe. You had a partnership. Tell us a little bit, how did you get, this was before you were a real estate agent?
Yeah, so I actually was running a fitness club, and at that time realized that the fitness club had been sold to a new owner, and I had taken care of that business almost since it started, and so I kind of felt like somebody just gave away my baby. And so my girlfriend from kindergarten and I attended, have you heard of the Rich Dad Poor Dad real estate classes? I heard it on the radio. I'm like, Lori, this is what we're going to. We did, and now we're probably 35, 40 properties later, 10 years later, it's done very well for us. So what I learned from that is really why I'm in real estate. And so kudos to that program. It's all about what you do with the program that makes it work.
Right.
So we started doing that, and we were buying and selling 3 to 4 properties a year. We didn't have a lot of capital, so it was borrowing private money, trying to get loans.
So kind of risky in a way.
Very risky, but we both were willing to step out of our comfort zone and do something bigger and better than what life was giving us at the time.
So just a side note then. So when I look around at the top agents, whether they're in 5-star or other companies, they typically look pretty calm. And even though they're doing a lot of business, and I find out that they almost always own real estate. And so it's like, okay, so I'm going to guess that if you were talking to some young people today, you would probably highly recommend that they find a way, somehow, some way to get into the ownership.
Is that a leading question?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Steering the witness.
Yeah.
I know it. I did.
Yeah.
I went way too far in my questioning. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that, we were buying and selling real estate 4 years prior to getting into this business. So
do you hold real estate too? Do you have any rental properties now, or do you intend to?
I have 15.
15
homes,
Yep.
single family homes.
Yep.
What kind of things have you learned, life lessons by owning property and dealing with rentals?
I think it's just been dealing with people, but I don't know if that's just specific to real estate. That's as a realtor, as anything.
I want to keep going on that because I think that really what we as real estate people do is we deal with people.
Right.
That's our number one job. So when I look at it and I think about owning rentals, it's like some of the lessons that I would think that, again, I'm leading the witness here again, would be things like life's not fair. You probably had moments where it just wasn't fair, right?
Very risky. We've been in situations where you're like, oh my gosh, we need to
do this.
Yeah, we've never lost, thank God. But you learn you've got to take some risks to get some pretty great rewards.
How much do you trust people after owning real estate property?
I always trust but verify, right?
So again, to me, those are those lessons that I think apply whether as a real estate agent or as a owner of rental property. And I think those are some key ones, and there's probably the minute you leave here, your brain might start clicking, and you might start thinking about some of the other things that you've just have. I mean, they become core things in your life now. That these are things that I will not do, or these are things that I have to do. That you've come across in this process. So, anything else in that area?
Have you had any major disasters with your rental properties? Have you been totally taken advantage of? Have you lost I mean, you said you haven't lost on any of these things, but you know, I had a rental property myself where, you know, I was young and it was only one property, so I was managing it all myself. And the lady shows up and she's a nurse. Everything checks the boxes just right. Oh, wow, cash. Here it is. Boom, boom, boom. I thought it was wonderful. I was like, this is too good to be true, man. She's like, she's on it. And then 3 weeks later, I'm like, this is starting to get a little weird. She's kind of avoiding me. I'm having to stop over to collect the rent, you know. And then the dog one time jumped through the window, her dog, like shattered the window, bleeding everywhere. I call her. I'm like, hey, your dog is bleeding everywhere. And he jumped through the window. And she said, again, oh, like, not again. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Is that a pit bull?
So it was some sort of weird, crazy, it was like albino, had like red eyes and stuff. It was crazy. It looked like an overgrown pit bull. It wasn't a pit bull, but it kind of looked like it. And she owed me probably 3-4 months of rent, and I kept believing the sob story. I kept buying into it, and I was like, okay, like I didn't want to be a jerk, and so, you know, lesson learned. But for me, I'll just work with a management company who doesn't have any emotions.
Well, for Lori and I, it's kind of like, okay, one can play good cop, bad cop, right? So we always push the badness off on the other person, like they're just horrible and they're making me do this to you.
Yeah.
So, and then when I'm tired of them, okay, Lori, you deal with them now.
Yeah. So do you guys together still own those properties?
We do. Yep. We're 50-50 in our LLCs. And
you still work together then going forward? You're still acquiring more?
10 years now. We actually have a place up in Traverse City that we've had for 2 years now. So yeah,
that's awesome. Have you guys thought about Airbnb?
We do VRBO with that.
You do. Okay, so you get a higher return on those.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you think about your years in real estate, what are the significant markers that you would look at? Like, I hired my first coach. I went to my first seminar. I got a designation. I went to a special. I mean, are there things like that in your world?
You're saying for the world of being a realtor?
Yeah. I mean, like moments or moments.
What were the markers?
I think a big marker was when I think I reached first couple years when I was at that number 58 transaction, as I was doing it by myself, and that was a lot. And I didn't quite know how I could do more just by myself. And so I had an agent tell me, you need an admin. And I'm like, that's so scary to think about having an admin, right? Somebody that you're going to pay all the time.
Yeah.
And so I met with that realtor, who was very kind to be very sharing of information, which was very helpful. And most people in this business I find are. And he's just like, just put an ad out looking for somebody 9 hours a week and pay them X dollar an hour, whatever you're comfortable with. And just, you're going to be able to fill their time. And so I started with that, had somebody 9 hours a week. It went to 12, it went to 15, it went to 20, it went to full time. And it was like, oh my gosh, I have enough here to fill an admin's full time. So I think that really made me more efficient, and I kind of felt like I could now duplicate myself through the efforts of somebody else and give them the things so I could go do tasks that really needed my effort and energy, so she could do some of the other things I wasn't really needed to do. So that was a big game changer for me. And after I had that first person, it just became easier to feel like, okay, where else can I duplicate myself through the efforts of someone else that can step in and help me. So I can be more places for more people in the things that are most important. And I'm still having to get better at that. But that's what this process is all about, is honing in our skills and challenging and learning and growing. So I would say probably another aha moment was I did start working with a coach at Berkshire, and he opened my eyes to the team concept, and then bringing on agents. And then bringing just getting enough leads where I couldn't really feel like I was effectively managing what was needed to happen. And so having another agent want to work with me and mentor with me, and that made a big difference. So that was when Erin came on board with me, and she was willing to do anything and everything for me, and we worked so well together. So she that was kind of the birth of the team that kind of happened by accident. She wanted help, I needed help, and it just worked. And so there it began. And then obviously switching to 5-star. So
So when you made the switch, I mean, I know that you were, it wasn't an overnight thing where it took us over a year of talking with you?
Yep.
Yeah. And finally you did it.
Jackie's pretty persistent.
Yeah, Jackie was persistent. So, but in the end, there still had to be, it was your call, your decision. Jackie didn't make you do it. So what got you over the hump?
I stayed up about 5 hours one night in the middle of the night, and I wrote my list of, if I stay at Berkshire Hathaway, what do those numbers look like? If I go to 5-star, what do those numbers look like? I played out a scenario of 12 months, 24 months, and figured out the numbers. I'm a numbers person. And then it came right down to, okay, you know what? Let's just stick with Berkshire Hathaway. How does that feel? And it felt really bad. And it was the feeling that I knew that wasn't the right move. And I got excited and giddy about the thought of coming to 5-star, that I knew that's kind of where my piece was going.
I never heard that part of the story, so thank you.
So tell us about coaching. What has that done for you with your newest coach you have now?
Well, I'll talk about two coaches. So I do coach with Todd Anderson too.
Okay.
So Todd Anderson comes into our team once a month and either meets with me or the team, and we just kind of have this collaborative sharing time. And Todd's great. Kudos to Todd. And then also this year, for me, every year in the business, I'm trying to think through, right? It's always about trying to stay relevant and coachable and figuring out what you don't know that you need to know. And so it's always for me like, okay, what can I work on this year? Is it systems? Is it engaging better with people? Is it, my database? This year it was really, if I'm going to grow a larger team and I'm going to become more efficient at what I'm doing, how do I do it? And I didn't, it's tough to try to find someone to teach you something in your own market, right? So how do I get outside of my market and learn from a different ecosystem? So in doing some homework, I did reach out to the Tom Ferry group and started coaching with them back in January. So since I've gone to some of their seminars and just being able to plug into a group of agents from other places in the United States that I could just glean a little bit from each of those places, just to say, okay, what do I need to know? So, like right now we're, our team is going through this growth of working on scripts, and which is something I've never done before. Looking at numbers. I'm always looking at numbers. The team will tell you they get sick of me sometimes asking for things, but tweaking what I look at and how I look at it, so that we can start to be more predictive, I think, with what we need to do next.
So Ferry's big on scripts, right?
Right.
And you've never done it before.
Right.
So how long have you been doing it? How long have you been with Ferry?
Just 4 months.
4 months.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good time.
Yeah. So
he's not cheap, as I understand.
Correct.
So that's a pretty big commitment. And we have seen Tom Ferry in numerous situations.
Right.
Matter of fact, we just saw him in May in Denver. And smart guy. You don't really talk with Tom though. He has all of his team that goes out and teaches and meets and coaches, correct?
Right.
But he teaches them. So what have you in this 4-month process, what have you gotten from, other than the scripts, what have the scripts done for you, and then what else has happened?
I think, I guess what I'll say about it is that it could be anything. It could be any coaching group. It could be, it's like the rich dad, poor dad thing. It's like I could have gone to a different real estate seminar. It's not, I don't know if it's the product as much as it is me just having that new thing that gets me one more thing I can learn and develop and grow with. And so plugging into the excitement of that ecosystem and the new structure of what I can help be a duplicatable system within our team just gives me, as a leader for the team, something I can say. It's like, okay, short of me writing all my own scripts or writing everything myself, it's just a system that I can say, okay, it's not about me and what I've done. Here, this is what works, and I can take it back to the team, and they know this is a proven system. So if I just do the work, it can work. And it's no different than Ninja. I'll put my plug in for Ninja right now. It's like we went to Ninja last year, right? And Ninja has a system and a way of doing things. And it's like if you call people, you follow up with people, you record things. I mean, it works, right? But
so
you
you're
have to do it, right? You have to do it. And if you look at my Ninja planner, I mean, it looks like I've got a lot of stuff here, but there's a lot of stuff not done. I don't send my 2 cards out every day, but you know what? This week here I did 2. If the next week I did maybe 5, and then there's enough weeks in here I did nothing, But it's like I heard today from my coach. He's like, you know what, Kerry? He goes, sometimes we feel that if we can't make these huge adjustments, then why do anything? And he's like, just like with a boat, you turn the rudder just a little bit and it doesn't seem like much, but 1 degree in the end result, you've made huge progress. So for me, it's like, if I send out 1 card a week, well, at the end of the year, that's 300, that's 52 cards. More that I wouldn't have done had I not taken that tiny effort. So, it's just about the small stuff, and it's implementing whatever system you are going to use. It's just using it and doing it, and right?
No, I mean, we would agree wholeheartedly that the words you're using are interesting. You said teachable, basically. You talked about duplicatable. Those are business words. I mean, those are somebody who understands that this is a business. And I think there's a lot of agents that have not treated this as a business. And it's hard because it requires, in my humble opinion, it requires a business-minded person. It's not just about showing homes. It's not just about closing and processing. There's so many different facets. And what you're really ultimately talking about, and I've heard some speakers use the word mastery. And in effect, when you know your stats, when you are doing your systems and you've got duplicatable things, you're mastering your field. And I think that's probably that's got to be one of the higher levels in the real estate business. And so it's exciting to see what you're doing and to see that you're having the success that you're having. So and I don't want to talk income, but just transactions. You mentioned, I don't know what your last year at Berkshire was, but where approximately...
You said 58, then you hired an admin.
So was it 58 when
right.
you left Berkshire?
No, that was when I heard, that was early on. That was probably my 3rd year.
Okay.
So 2016, by myself, I sold 75 units. So it's usually about what I can handle myself.
All right.
I haven't quite figured out how to sell 100 myself, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I can feasibly sell 75 to 80 or 70 to 80 myself. So once we added on the team in 2017 coming on board, we sold 97 units, and last year we sold 141 units. This year our goal is 185 units.
So basically you've doubled.
Yeah.
In the last 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's always my goal, is to keep going.
What does your coach say about that? Does he do they praise you at all in this coaching thing for your success, or do they just keep pounding?
Well, I mean, it's all in what's my goal, right? And where am I in relation to my goal and what's important for me? And that's what his real focus is okay, well, where do you want to take this, right? What do you envision for yourself? And that's sometimes that's my struggle. I like to see clearly of where I'm going, and sometimes I don't always have the clarity. So it's trying to spend time with people that have done some of the things that I want to do, so I can get a vision for what it looks like and try to figure it out in my own life, right? So, yeah.
So coaching's been worth it.
Yeah, absolutely.
With Ferry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's another coach I was with a brief time at Berkshire Hathaway. One thing he taught me has stuck, and it makes a huge difference in my business, is doing a spring 50 list, right? So September, October, so this September, October, I'll start planning for 2020. Gosh, that's hard to say. And so I will start my spring 50 list of anybody and everybody I think that might want to sell it or buy in the next year. They go on my spring 50 list. That way, when I start approaching the end of the year and your numbers are going to go back down to zero and it's so discouraging, I can look at my spring 50 list and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 60 people on my spring 50 list. It's now a spring 100 list, right? So you go into the year feeling not so deflated because your numbers are starting over, because you've got all of this big list of folks that you think might buy or sell in the next year. And that tip from him I still do it. And actually now with Ninja has their hot and warm spreadsheets that they give you. If you take the class in September, I recommend it. So my spring 50 really became this list, the hot and warm prospects. So at any given time in the year, I can feel really confident in my business because I know, okay, these are all the people, this is what that commission breaks out to, and just keep following up with those people every year, add them to my flow. And so.
Do you still work with buyers?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it equal, buyers and sellers?
It actually, last year was equal for me, interestingly. When I look at my stats, I was trying to get it to switch a little bit more to sellers. But it, last year, I'm about 50-50 for the most part.
Okay.
So.
How do you figure out who goes on your spring 50 list?
Anybody that tells me they want to buy or sell next year.
Just anyone in passing, just, hey, we're thinking about it next year sometime.
They go on the list.
Do you ever just guess? Do you ever just throw some names on there because you think? Or do you have to have concrete evidence?
I mean.
I'm just curious. Do you run into 100 people who say, we might sell sometime in the future?
I mean, they'll be in my database, but they won't necessarily be in my spring 50 list, my spring 100 list, whatever.
So are you doing something to generate that list? Or is it just like people are calling you just through your daily?
Well, your flow every week when you're making your phone calls.
Okay, so then it
right?
starts to build your
hour of power if you're a Tom Ferry client.
So
you're doing your calls, and you're just constantly following up with people, so you get a feel.
These names aren't just falling in your lap.
You meet people, you meet friends. Somebody called, my sister's looking to buy or sell. Great. What's her,
I was just curious if the spring 50 was like you sit down one day and you just come up with your 50, or if it sounds like you're kind of building it over time.
I build it over time, and usually, because everybody's kind of thinking a few months out, so it seems to be about the fall time when that list starts coming together, and just evolves.
Yeah.
So have you ever, I'm sure you have, but to have a really big year, most agents kind of like, they get through the holidays and then they go, I'm going to start. But that's kind of too late.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? So what do you do in November and December to generate so that you're already have those pending starting in January?
You start in September and October.
So
you just can't take your foot off the pedal.
To me, I'm like, we're already so it's already July. So I've got another how many more months to hit this year's goals, and then by the end of the summer, I'm going to start trying to think about my list for next year, right? Because it's all about trying to stay ahead of the game.
You're going to be thinking about your spring 50 before you know it.
I know.
I know.
So did you understand that from the beginning that you had to do that, or did you realize that at some point going along to go, all right, if I start really busting it in January, my first closings aren't going to happen until February at best, which means I've already lost out in the first quarter of the year.
There's that whole working in your business or working on your business thing, right? And you've always talked about this, and so many of us, and I've been guilty of this plenty of times, where you get caught up in the whirlwind of your day and your week, where you're like, I am busy, man. I am feeling good. I'm just cranking. And all of a sudden you're like, it just comes to an end. All your closings just going to stop.
Yeah. Well, and I always heard, November, December, January, and February, those are the months that you can work on your business, because the rest of the year you have to work in your business. And I will say that my coach, he's like, Kerry, he's like, you have to work on your business every day.
Yeah.
He goes, get up earlier.
Yeah. What time do you get out of bed?
Well, I will say I'm a comfortably a 7 o'clocker.
Yeah.
But he's like, just try 5:30. And I tried for 5:30 and it lasted for a week.
Yeah.
And that didn't go well. So now I'm really shooting for that 6:30, like to
Compromise.
get up, work out, read, meditate, do my affirmations, and then look at my business and look at my goals, what has to happen today.
Have you ever heard of this Savor thing where it's like, I was actually just talking with Justin Rader, our 5-star CPA and CFO, on the way back from Kalamazoo this morning, and he was running me through how he was trying to get up at 5:30 in the morning and do the, there's like, you give yourself some space, you give yourself some meditation, you do affirmations, you talk about your day, you do a little workout, same kind of thing you're talking about right now. I wonder if it comes from the same...
Ninja.
Ninja?
It's a ninja.
Okay. Yep. There we go.
Well, this is good because I thought I was going to talk about Ninja today, but Kerry's doing a fine job, so I'm just going to lay that. But Ninja is September 23rd through 26th at Sunnybrook Country Club. Costs will be $795, which is probably, when you think about the value, probably one of the best values you're ever going to see. Mike Ferry's not $795. Tom Ferry. Well, I know Mike too.
So, but with
Every
this,
couple weeks.
when did you take Ninja for the first time?
Last year was
Last
my
year's the
first
first
year in
time?
Ninja.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So here you are. So I think a lot of people inside of 5-star think that Ninja's for new people.
It is. It's for everybody.
Well, you were new.
No, it's for new and it's for
Veterans.
anybody.
Yeah.
Experienced people.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, great.
I'm going to take it this year. I'm going to
Are you really?
take the whole class this year.
Wow.
It's kind of like if you take it, can you get one more thing? One more thing to improve your business, one more thing to challenge yourself, improve yourself.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear you say that one more thing, because I have always said I can go to anything and I can probably learn something that day that I can integrate into my business. Either a way to think, a way to do.
It's that 1 degree, right?
Yeah. I heard another guy say it. It's not big, huge shifts. It's like 3 tiny steps left, 3 tiny steps right. And but I think a lot of people think it's big, major things that take place, and it's really not. And I think the very successful people who have gone through that will tell that story. And but there's so many of those things out there that what I would call the myths of real estate or the myths of business, which really aren't true. It's like people want to think that somebody who's doing very well, they got lucky.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And my experience is that no, they just kind of did the same thing every day. And it wasn't like an overnight success. It was like lots of hours, lots of time over a lengthy period of time, and it crescendoed, but it wasn't a straight line up.
Well, as you've always said, and we talked about it just this week, you're like, well, let me see your calendar and let me see what you did the past 2 or 3 weeks of let me just show me your daily activities for the past 2 or 3 weeks. And you can kind of identify what's going on.
Yeah, we heard Larry Kendall speak, who created Ninja out in Denver, and he basically said any agent whose numbers are down, if they're doing what they should be in flow, I can go back 60 days and I can point out why their business is suffering today. It's almost always connected. It's they have not been meeting new people, they've not been talking with people, they've not been doing the legwork that they were supposed to do, and you always pay the price 60 to 90 days out. So, anyway.
Okay, that was a 30-minute conversation.
Yeah.
It's pretty. Did it feel long or did it feel quick?
Quick.
Or about 30 minutes.
That's quick.
It usually goes by pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. This is the end of our. Do we have any questions by chance, Don? Yeah. Okay. If people do have questions, feel free to fire them into the box, and we'll make sure Kerry sees the questions and we'll answer.
Cool.
Yeah.
But thank you for taking the time to drive in from Kalamazoo and meet with us. It's been a pleasure. I think we learned a couple new things today.
Yeah.
So
Always.
thank you
I
so much for
always am.
sharing.
I
Yeah.
know. I agree.
Yeah. One thing. That's all we needed.
It's one more thing.
Spring 50.
Yeah.
This one's gonna. I think that one's gonna stick. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks
Yeah.
everybody for
Thanks,
watching.
guys.
All right.